Testimony continues in the trial of a York County teen facing murder charges as an adult. Nolan Grove is the one accused of shooting and killing 12-year-old Kane Highland back in 2023. Maxine Rose just got out of the courtroom. Let's start with some big takeaways from today, Maxine.
Yeah, Jasmine. Well, inside the York County Courthouse here today, we heard from roughly 10 people. So in the beginning, we heard from two young individuals who had been there. It was a scooter that they said that they had. It was one of the people, one of the three boys, their scooter, talking about that, how they interacted with the three boys that day. But we also heard from neighbors, and we also heard from experts. They were talking a lot about what they saw at the crime scene that day. And very lastly, at the end, we heard from Nolan Grove, the defendant, his father.
Tell us about Nolan Grove's father.
Yeah, well, Nolan Grove's father talked a lot about Nolan's knowledge of guns. So he was talking about the Cal-Tech 380 that he had stored in this flag safe, and what Nolan Grove may or may not have known about how to use that safe, but also about his prior knowledge. He told the jury today that he had spoken with Nolan Grove before about the use of guns, BB guns to be specific, but when he told police about this when this first happened, he told police that he had known about semi-automatic weapons. So today he said he was clarifying that what he meant was really BB guns. That was a huge part of today. Again, Nolan Grove's knowledge of BB guns and how to use them.
Who spent the most time on the witness stand today, and what were some of the big questions they were asked?
Well, no one spent nearly as long as Miles did, the third boy who was at that sleepover the day of the incident, April 1st, 2023, as yesterday. That was roughly 4 hours. Today, it was pretty brief, but I would say that Nolan Grove's dad did spend a good amount of time at the stand today, being questioned by both the prosecution and the defense attorney about what he was saying, trying to make sure that he was not contradicting himself.
We talked yesterday about Nolan Grove's demeanor, and you said that at one time his attorney had to say, "Stop doodling on your paper," or something to that effect. How about his behavior and demeanor today, day two?
Well, there was no doodling from what I could see today, Jasmine. He seemed relatively focused. He did come in and out. We could see him asking questions with his attorney today, but otherwise he stayed relatively quiet and was listening to what people had to say. We even heard him, or could see him, I should say, nodding his head a few times or shaking his head, reacting to the people on the stand.
Okay, including his father. Maxine Rose, thank you. We'll see you in the next half hour. Testimony continues today in the trial of a York County teen facing murder charges as an adult. This is 15-year-old Nolan Grove, accused of shooting and killing 12-year-old Kane Highland back in 2023. CBS 21's Maxine Rose just left the courtroom. Maxine, so how many people took the stand today, and who were they?
Yeah, Jasmine, well, there were 10 people who took the stand today, and that ranged from people who were expert witnesses to also Nolan Grove, the defendant's father, as well as some other people, kids, who came into contact with the three kids involved in the shooting on April 1st, 2023.
Okay, so I know yesterday there was a young boy named Miles who sat on that stand for nearly 4 hours. More kids questioned today. What was their testimony?
Yeah, so the testimony from these two other kids who had come into contact earlier in the day, they said that they had come across him while walking down the street and that there was an argument, and that Nolan Grove had said to them, "I'll shoot someone if I have to." There was also another person who was on a 2-hour FaceTime call with the boys at the time leading up to the shooting and also during the shooting. The recording of that FaceTime call, which he admitted to doing today, was also played in part during the testimony today.
Wow. Can you tell us anything about that recording? And the shooting was on the recording as well?
So the shooting was not on the recording. The person who was on this call and had previously recorded some bits throughout the day, he says the phone was in one of the boys' pockets when the shooting happened. Now, let's talk about the video that was showed. This is the second time today that they're showing this video, so not necessarily new, but played it again for the boy to confirm what was being seen in that video. And in that video, you could see Nolan Grove pointing the gun at Kane Highland, the victim, pointing his laser at him.
Okay, then you have Kane Highland's Nolan Grove, his father, takes the stand as well. What was that like? What was his testimony?
Yes, well, I want to start off with the fact that Nolan Grove allegedly told his father, as well as troopers shortly after the shooting, that he was in his bedroom when the gunshots went off. And that has been clarified that is a very different story to what his defense has now said actually happened, Jasmine. But I also want to talk about the fact that they talked about Nolan Grove's knowledge of guns. So he says that he's had knowledge of the guns, he's used a BB gun before, but that he's never taken his son, the father has never taken his son, Nolan Grove, out to a shooting range. He also says that I'm sure that Nolan Grove has seen me open up the safe, but that he never actually showed Nolan Grove how to open that safe, Jasmine.
Okay, well, Maxine Rose, thank you so much for that report. Testimony continued today in the trial of 15-year-old Nolan Grove, accused of shooting and killing 12-year-old Kane Highland in Red Lion back in 2023.
Grove is being tried as an adult for third-degree murder. In the third day of testimony today, 2 expert witnesses took the stand. A forensic expert discussing Grove had gunshot residue on his sweatshirt and blue jeans.
A firearms expert told the court the gun did not have a faulty trigger and could not have gone off by accident. 2 of Kane and Nolan's friends also testified, talking about Nolan showing them the gun on multiple occasions before the alleged shooting.
Then the lead investigator on the case showed a previous interview with a 15-year-old who was there during the alleged shooting. In the video, he told police Nolan made a joke about Kane's mom. When Kay told him to shut up, that's when Grove took out the gun and said, "You know what will happen," as he pulled the trigger.
Testimony will continue tomorrow.